Okay, so let's get into it. Without doubt, these last few months, these last few days have been some of the most, extraordinary times in our lifetime, right? Unprecedentedly, right? So first of all, we had the whole situation with the coronavirus. I mean, I'll be honest with you, even in my mind right now, when I think about it, something about it seems like it's almost surreal, right? I think there was some kind of movie on Netflix, Contagion, and this whole idea that there's a virus outbreak and people are dying and so on. And if anyone had told me, if any of you on this call had said to me, VBD, in a few months' time, 2020, this will be going on, I'd say you're crazy, right? You couldn't imagine. And so I still wonder sometimes, is this like some kind of bad joke that people are self-isolating? I know that in our community here in London, multiple people have died from coronavirus. Not just one or two, multiple people have been close to death, right? And personal friends of mine, one of them I was speaking to, he said it's no joke, right? He said that what happened was he really thought he was about to die. He was choking, couldn't breathe, it's just so intense. And this person, wife, two children, etc. And then, to add to all of that, when people are already in pain, tense, anxious, feeling vulnerable, right, from an invisible so-called virus that could come upon anyone, then around the world, everyone is rocked by seeing, and several people are filming it, seeing one man, African-American body, having a police officer put his knee on his neck, and the person is saying he can't breathe and he passes away. We're living, we should be very clear on this, we're living in times which are some of the most intense times of modern history. Okay, and that's not to say that things like this haven't happened before. I remember being young when the 1992 riots happened in Los Angeles. I remember being a young man watching it on TV with my parents. My wife told me recently that her brother had some bad experiences with the police as well, right? So in many situations, all of us will be experiencing what's going on, we'll be hearing what's going on, we'll be feeling the intense emotions. And what's also interesting is we'll be experiencing and analyzing and codifying it in very, very different ways. And what we want to do is just explore some of the dynamics around that. And also we want to create a space whereby we can collectively start to open the heart, speak very, very openly, very deeply. And I'll just say also at the beginning of this, for everyone who's on this call right now, and I'll put my email address in the chat room maybe towards the end, I really want to have a very open dialogue with anyone and everyone who would like to, even off the back of the discussion today, would like to dialogue about what's going on, or even, and maybe this is where we'll start, even just express how they are feeling about this situation, you know? Because this is one of the most intense times in the modern global world society. Now, one thing that I was thinking about, very interestingly, was what was going on and the statements that we're seeing, right? So one of the biggest statements, especially off the back of what's happened, Black Lives Matter, hashtag, right? Black Lives Matter. And it's interesting. I remember I was having this discussion with my wife, and we were talking when someone is asserting that, especially when they're from that community, I'm always doing this thing in my mind now. I'm always translating. I'll be very honest. For the last few years, one of the biggest things I've been learning, and I'm going to teach this actually to other people, I've been learning about different personality types, right? I've been learning how, and Prabhupada speaks about this, he says, everyone sees the world from their own position. Did everyone get that? Everyone sees the world from their own position. And what I was realizing is what I've been doing over the last few years is translation, right? So I've tried to, often failed, but I've often tried to think, okay, this is how I'm seeing it. Okay, stop, pause. Now, through opening dialogue, through being empathetic, through just listening, let me try to understand the world from the eyes of another individual. Let me try to I can never fully grasp it because I'm not in that position. I can never fully grasp it, but I can at least try to hear or make some step towards understanding what they are experiencing in the world from where they stand, right? And when I do that, what happens is I can start to translate when I act in a certain way, what is the message that, even if I don't mean to, what is the message that I'm communicating to that other person? Can everyone feel me? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. And this is really important. The reason why this is really important, and I was discussing with some devotees recently, is because if an individual has to assert that their life matters, if any individual has to assert that their life matters, it becomes very clear to me that at least a good proportion of people who are asserting that, what they're saying is that maybe because of how they were treated, how they were interacted with, the message that they've received in some way, shape, or form is that their life does not matter. And for me, that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And I'll tell you why it's such a big thing. Because my wife gave a class on this recently. It was a seminar on self-esteem. I've seen in my own journey of self-esteem that based upon how I'm able to value myself and appreciate myself and feel that love within myself, it automatically affects every single way that I interpret everything else that goes on in my life. So when we have a situation where within any category, individuals, groups do not feel properly valued, do not feel properly cared for, do not feel that they are significant, that sows the seeds of so many destructive experiences in the world as we know it. Right? So this is the first point, that every one of us, there's an interpretation that goes on. And because we're human, there's a common experience about interpreting that. It's not something that this is not something we can just put to the side through philosophy. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This takes place at a very, very deep and very heartfelt level. And then I was thinking about my upbringing. I was thinking about parenting, but I was thinking about leadership. And I woke up a few days ago and something was just rattling in my brain. And I was thinking, how does a person come to a point where they feel that they are important? Okay. And I've been reading, so my own spiritual master, Bhakti Tirtha, wrote many books on leadership. And before this whole situation occurred, myself and a friend, we were studying his book on leadership. And what was in my mind, there's a quote from the Manu Samhita. It says, a king who does not protect his citizens is a dead king. Okay? And when I woke up that morning, it was almost like Krishna had left something in my mind. What I saw was this. When people feel protected, the message that, and this is anyone in position of authority, whether it's a community leader, whether it's a king like a Raj Rishi, whether it's a parent, whether it's a police officer, when I protect people who are under my care, who I have responsibility for, when I protect those people, the message I'm sending to them is what? I want you to put this in the chat window to me. When people who are your protectors, or those who are meant to be in a position of protection for you, when they protect you, what message are they sending to you? Just type it into the chat window. I just want to see what you're thinking first of all, okay? When people who are meant to protect you do their job and actually take responsibility and protect you, what message are they sending to you as an individual? They're saying that you are what? Okay, yeah, you value, you matter, you mean something. This is where the story begins, ladies and gentlemen. This is where the story begins. And of course, so we all understand this, right? We all understand this, that we send a message, you and I, we're in communication all the time. And I don't even mean by Facebook or by text message. You and I are in communication all the time by the way that we deal with each other. And a large part of the message that we send to each other has nothing to do with the words. A large part of the message that we send to each other has a lot to do with how we deal, and also has a lot to do with how we do not deal. Okay? So communication is mostly nonverbal. Now let's take it a step further. So therefore, when I look at this, when I try to decode what's going on, a few thoughts came to mind. I want to share them with you, and then we're going to have more of an interaction in exchange for your comments and questions. What I saw in my mind was leadership in three categories, right? Because a leader is meant to protect. Again, the king who does not protect his citizens is a dead king, right? Leadership in three categories. So we're familiar with this framework through our tradition: the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. So what came to me was when leadership is in the mode of ignorance, there's two things that you see. Number one, abusive, okay? In the mode of ignorance, just wrathful, negative, abusive. So one symptom of leadership in the mode of ignorance is I abuse the people who are under my care. Another thing about leadership in the mode of ignorance is it's negligent, okay? And both things send a message. Either I mistreat you in a very intense way, or I completely ignore you, ignorance, okay? And that plays out in a certain way. Leadership in the mode of passion, okay? Two things that came to mind. Number one, manipulation, okay? I'm clever, I know how to kind of get around you. Number two, exploitation. I take advantage of you, okay? So leadership in the mode of passion. Then we come to the standard of our tradition, what leadership is meant to be. And I was discussing this, and I was reading and discussing this for the last few months, actually, even while this coronavirus situation began. Leadership in the mode of goodness, we can take two things. Leadership in the mode of goodness. One, protection, right? Number two, support. Well, we're at a time, ladies and gentlemen, where we are really seeing in a very blatant way. This has been going on for decades, by the way. Let's be very clear. But we see this in a much more graphic and upfront way at this time. I can't even call it leadership, right? I can't even say leader. You just have to say misleader, right? It's just that blatant. And as with the modes, we know that the mode of ignorance leads to something. We know the mode of passion leads to something. We know the mode of goodness leads to something. So in one sense, and I hate to say this, because this is not going to be some kind of cliched class. I hate to say it, but we could predict this kind of thing was going to come, right? If you look, I saw this trend as I was looking at things. Okay, coronavirus. What does coronavirus mean? It means you've actually exploited Mother Nature. Abuse of Mother Nature. Abuse of the animals, the animal kingdom, who, as human beings, we have a responsibility for, right? We're responsible for them. And responsibility doesn't mean that we can abuse and exploit them. Responsibility means just like many of you are parents. Responsibility means you have a duty to look after those people, those living entities, right? And what happens after our Mother Nature says, you know what, I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of being mistreated in this way. And she reacts. She reacts. I mean, let's be honest, any kind of abuse is bad, but you could argue in some way, the very person who gives birth to you, right? And that's the person who's being abused, right? You hear, it comes up in the news, okay, this man abused his own mother, right? How intense. The same with the animal kingdom. You know, there's been reports about how during this situation with the coronavirus, where people are self-isolating, they found that the pollution rate has just gone down significantly, right? Significantly. They've had these kind of images, satellite images, where you can see the smog has gone down, the pollution has gone down, because the people can't get into the factories to bring out into the environment. Mm? So what we're seeing in this world right now, there's a real pattern. And I'm not going to be on a downer because, look, let's be very honest. There's no point being down because we either change the situation or we die trying. You understand? There is no, oh, giving up, right? Because we only have one planet. We change the situation, we improve the situation, and we're going to get into some of the subtleties around that, by the way. So no one on this call should think that they're just, that they have no role to play, right? We all have a role to play in making the situation better and to do it in a way that is actually Christian conscious, okay? We're gonna bring forward some real home truths as we discuss this, okay? So going back to this situation in America, the riots that have happened in America, and also the protests as well that have happened in America have happened worldwide. It's triggered something. Before this period began, I'll tell you honestly, I was doing some research on the karma of the world at this time. And there were predictions even last year and earlier this year that we're going into a very intense period in the world, right? A very intense period. And this period, and I feel this pressure myself, to be honest, this period calls on all of us to step up in a way that we have practically never done before. Okay, I repeat that. This time in the world is calling upon us to step up in a way that we've practically never done before, but also to do it with a certain quality that we've never done before, okay? Because the time that we live in, it requires, and I'll say honestly, it requires an incredible sense of maturity. An incredible sense of maturity. Because what we have right now is a situation where there's so much misunderstanding, there's so much intense experience, and I'm going to put it like this. Our room, like imagine that all of us are in the same room. Our room is crowded with people crying out for love and understanding. Do you feel me? Right? People crying out for a space to express themselves and to feel heard, to feel understood. Go back to the first point. If you catch nothing else from this seminar, from this class, remember this one thing. Every dealing you have with a person is a communication, right? And the world is full now of people crying out in pain who are actually saying, and every activity is saying this in some way, shape, or form, I do not feel valued, right? I do not feel valued. I do not feel heard. I do not feel appreciated. I do not feel seen from my experiences that I'm having. I was in this communication with some people, and I'm just going to throw it out there because I know some of you may have heard this narrative before. So let's be honest, and I'm not shooting these people down. There'll be so many people who, without meaning to be insensitive, they're going to give the classic line. What's the classic line? The classic line is, you are not what? You're not the body, right? I understand, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Yes, we are going in that direction. We are going in that direction. They're going to give the classic line, here's a quote from Prabhupada Prabhu. I read this, you're not the body, right? And to those people, I've read the books before. Thank you very much. I got that. I got that. What we're going to talk about here is real Krishna consciousness. And let me explain what I mean by that. Krishna consciousness is two things. And I'm going to tell you which of the two is more important. It is philosophy and it is behavior. Let's be very clear. The reason why people of all different backgrounds and genders and nationalities, the reason why they to this day are practicing Krishna consciousness is not because of what they read in the books. I repeat, it's not because of what they read in the books. It's because they saw an example of someone whose behavior convinced them that there is a supreme person who actually loves me. Did you get that point? Right? The time in the world where you can get away with just giving philosophy, those days have gone. Right? Those days have gone. Because unfortunately, our leaders have been so incompetent, and I say that without reservation, so utterly incompetent, that the only way to really pull this situation back is by imbibing and embodying the actual intense, supreme, and unconditional love that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has for each and every one of us, right? And that love that exists by him being ready to sit in the heart, lifetime after lifetime, while we also, right? While we also say, you know, Krishna, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to listen to you either. Now, I've got my own thing. I'm not going to pay attention to you. I don't care what you think, actually. I've got my own plan, okay? We have to live it. We have to embody it. Our behavior and how our life has to be the preaching, okay? Do you understand the difference, okay? And let's make it even more graphic, because when a person is in pain and we just say, and we ignore how they feel, and we just say what we want to say in the way we want to say it, and you'll put it in the chat window, what does that feel like? And let's make it as real as possible. You can use any example, because let's be honest, many of us have been on the receiving end of that. What does that feel like? You're in pain. It could be anything, right? So my grandmother passed away recently. It was a couple of weeks ago. And I was speaking to my mum on the phone. And I said, Mum, how are you feeling, right? And my mum said to me, she's like, look, I'm really upset. My grandmother was 103 years old. She passed away in her sleep. I tell you honestly, I would not dare tell my mother, don't worry, Mum, she's not the body. I would not dare say that to my mother. I remember when my own spiritual master was passing away. I can't even lie to you. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. He's 55 years old with cancer. I was there when he was diagnosed with cancer. Right? I was serving him for a few months. Then we found out that what was thought to be a benign tumor on his foot, it was cancer. Heartbreaking. And you just see this person passing away, leaving the world. And we all knew, we all read the books. He'd given the classes saying that you are not this body. But that wasn't what we needed at the time. You understand? It wasn't what we needed at the time. What we needed at the time was for someone to understand our pain. Was for someone to say, yes, I understand what you're going through. I hear you. I acknowledge what you're feeling. And when that was done, that immediately helped me to understand, oh, Krishna does exist, right? Because the way that the world, and the world includes every single one of us, and it includes the devotees in our movement, right? The way that the world will understand that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead who actually cares about them is through the behavior, the imbibing of devotion within the heart and the activities of a devotee. Therefore, the reading is important, the chanting is important, everything is important. This is how intense it gets. I was reading about Nazi Germany. I was listening to one speaker and he said something that really, to be honest, I felt like it was just slapping the taste out of my mouth. What he said was, there'd been studies, and the studies had found that the day-to-day person in Germany at the time, because it was normal to mistreat that group of people, it was something that was going on widespread. It wasn't that there were the good people and the bad people, right? I mean, there were, but there were many people who, because it was seen as socially acceptable to go along with that, they went along with it, right? And then when I was listening to the dialogue about that, he made a point which is very important, and this is where it really touched me. He said, "Don't think that you wouldn't have been one of those people." That's what he said. He said, "Don't think that you wouldn't have been one of those people," right? Because it's very easy for us to say, "Yeah, you know, if I was there, I would have said this is wrong." I don't know if I would have done that. I don't know if I was that person. I don't know if I would have thought that if everyone else is doing it, it is okay. Got it? I can't say for certain that I wouldn't have been one of those people because of social pressure, because of wanting to be accepted, and because the crowd was all doing it. I can't say that I don't know if I would have been one of those people who would have said, "You know what? I don't care whether everyone else is doing it. This is wrong. This is wrong." I don't know if I would have been one of those people who, while seeing someone being mistreated, I don't know if I would have had the sensitivity, the selflessness, or the empathy to think, you know what, that person who's being mistreated, that's my son. That person who's being mistreated, that's my daughter. That person who's being mistreated, that's my mother. Or even if I would have had the sensitivity to understand that person who's being mistreated, that's me. That person who's being mistreated, that person will be me in the future. Because whether you remember it or not, that's our teaching. What I'm doing to other people is what I'm preparing myself to experience in the future. Okay? Let's bring it up close and personal. I'm going to tell you very honestly, I know in my own life, sometimes I've been around people who are just domineering, right? And I told my wife, I can understand, hand on my heart, I can understand clearly in my previous life, I was like that. I was like those people. It's so Christian makes it so in my face. So yeah, BBD, that was you. You're meeting your reflection in the mirror. So now it gets to the point where we have to be a little bit more intense about ourselves. There are many people who will, how can I put this? I had a time in my life where I would see people doing something wrong and I'd think, why do they have to be like that? That's wrong, right? And you know what Krishna did? Every time I saw that, I kid you not, I swear on my own life, when I did that, whether it's a few hours later, a day, a week later, Krishna would show me, dude, you hypocrite. You hypocrite. You've got the same quality in your own heart, right? I'd see people, I think, why is that devotee so lazy? Why doesn't he work hard? And Krishna will put me in a situation where I could see, my God, I'm being lazy. And I was reflecting on what they call the shadow. Right? The idea of the shadow is certain parts within ourselves that we've repressed. You understand what I'm talking about? Those things about me that are just too painful to look at. Right? Those things about myself which are too painful to look at. So I just lock it into my unconscious, pretend it's not there. No, I'm not one of those people. They're the bad people. I'm the good people. You understand? Right? I'm not like them. And one of the things that I've seen that Krishna consciousness has forced me to understand, BBD, you need to look at yourself. Because unless you look at yourself, even with all the good intentions in the world, you'll even worse than actually denying. When you deny what is part of you, it comes out in some other way. It comes out. So those days are gone. Those days for making out that, I'm all right. It's just these people out there that need to change. I'm okay. I'm cool, right? Those days are gone. At the same time, I have to be honest, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. When I see what's going on, I'm not excited about people harming others, but I'm excited when I'm seeing people having at least some intelligence to understand that I need to show people by my example the way, right? My wife and I, we've been looking at these images and we see these police officers, they're kneeling down. They're kneeling down. And I'm seeing, and then I'm thinking, yeah, this person, Krishna is inspiring them hard. Dude, what they're telling you is that they want you to understand and they want you to recognize that they are valuable, that their life matters. What Mother Nature is telling us, she wants us to understand, I'm looking after you, I'm providing resources, I'm providing vegetation, I'm providing residence for you. I just want you to recognize that I'm important. And that becomes the foundation of all relationships. The foundation of all relationships is that I see you, I acknowledge you, I hear you, and all of this means that I want you to know that I love you. I see you and you're important to me. Okay? And all that we need to do is in our life, we need to find more and more ways to communicate that to other people in a way that is meaningful, substantial, and recognized. And right, now this is where it gets a bit tricky. Because to be honest, again, going back to this crowded room, right? The crowded room is like this. The crowded room is that everyone is screaming out that I need to feel loved. Okay? Everyone is screaming out, I need to feel loved. And the other person is saying, I need to feel loved. And they're saying, hold on, but I need to feel loved. Right? And then the other person is saying, no, I need to feel loved. And the other, hold on, but I need love first. So we're living in a crowded room. You and I were living in a crowded room. And one of the most important things that we can do is to give the very thing that we are looking for. Okay? Right? We have to give the very thing that we're looking for. There's one of my colleagues at work was putting together like some material on this topic. It's called compassion fatigue. Right? Maybe some of you have heard of it before. Right? It's called compassion fatigue. It's like sometimes it can be that you're looking after a sick relative and you keep giving and then you keep giving and then you keep giving. You come to a point where you can't give anymore and suddenly you become the neglectful individual. You went from being the giver to the person who actually was unable to give anything else. You become bitter. And I've seen this, by the way. I've seen people who started out wanting to give and after a while they become bitter and resentful and drained. And I asked myself, why did that happen? Why did that happen? And I realized it's not enough to have a good intention anymore. Right? It's not enough to have a good intention anymore. Well, even the Christians understand this, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So what's the solution? Yeah, we want to make a change. We want to make a difference. How am I going to do this sustainably, right? Because there's also a lot of posturing that can go on. There's also a lot of, I'm down with what's going on. And it can be a fad. It can easily become a fad. How do I become a change agent who makes a difference on a day-to-day level in a way that's Krishna conscious? And there's no other way to do it than by being connected to Krishna. In other words, if you want to give consistently, you better be connected. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you want to give consistently, you better be connected. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from with this, right? So Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, my spiritual master, he gave a class to the American Medical Association, right? Huge audience, big assembly. He began the presentation like this, right? He stood up in front of all of them. First sentence, it's a shame that while I'm standing here addressing you all, that you're all dying so fast. That's how the class began. Then he went on to explain that doctors have the shortest life expectancy of all professionals, more likely to be addicted to drugs, alcohol, different things, right? So many different statistics. Now, what was really interesting was why. The really interesting thing was why. And the reasoning was because if you're a healer, you want to make a change, you want to make a difference, you want to help, but you yourself are not replenishing your own energies. You're not replenishing your own stores. You're in trouble. Because with all this good intention, you're not doing what you need to do in order to continue to draw upon that energy and that strength to make a lasting difference. And I'll personally say this, if you do that, you become a disservice. Because I guarantee you right now in the world, there are many people who are standing on the fence and thinking, I'd like to help, but they don't get involved straight away. We call, the people who get involved, they're your early adopters. Whether it's with trends, whether it's technology, you have your early adopters who jump in straight away. And the vast majority of people, they watch. They sit back and they think, okay, they're protesting. Okay, let's have a look. All right, let's see what's happening. Okay, okay, look safe. Then they're gonna walk in a little bit, do a little bit. Okay, let's watch, etc. If they see the people with good intention, but who don't prepare themselves and connect properly, if they see those people start to burn out, if they see those people start to fight amongst themselves, if they see those people start to become hypocrites, then the message that you're sending is that this isn't possible, right? And with all that good intention, they turn around and think, yeah, don't do it. It's not a good idea. The time for just having a good intention, those days are gone. Those days are gone. They're long gone. We cannot be sentimental. You really want to help the world? Okay, plug yourself in. Make sure that you connect yourself to the source, to Krishna, so that you actually have something of substance to give. I have a recording. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was saying that when you're in any position of authority, whether it's a doctor, a parent, a healer, when you are helping people, you're giving them your higher energy and you're taking on some of their karma, some of their karma that they're trying to burn up. Yeah. And I've seen this with doctors, and they're like, after a while, they're drained and they don't know what's going on. They didn't get it. So I don't understand why I'm so drained. I don't understand why I'm feeling so down. And I was explaining to them, yeah, this is why, because you're helping these people, you're taking their energies and you're not connected properly. So your sentiment isn't enough. And it's just like this, right? It's just like your child gets ill and you take your child to hospital and the doctor says, I'm going to help your child. And then you find out just before the doctor's about to operate, the doctor doesn't know any medicine. They don't know medicine. They've never learned it. They've got no idea how to operate, but it's okay. I've got a good intention. I mean well. Are you going to let that person operate on your child? I don't think so, right? So ladies and gentlemen, those days are gone. What Krishna consciousness does, our teachings explain, and one of my godbrothers put it very nicely. I'm just trying to find the exact point. He was talking about a statement that Prabhupada made, and this was a statement Prabhupada in Los Angeles while he was on the planet. It was I think the appearance or disappearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It was his appearance day or disappearance. And Prabhupada said, our Krishna consciousness movement means to feel the suffering of humanity. It's a very deep thing, right? If anything, anything, I'll tell you honestly, as those people who have a very deep and profound understanding of the human condition and the mission of human life, we are also leaders. Once you've been touched by this teaching, you're a leader, right? What is it they say? That Krishna consciousness is like the mafia. Once you join, you can never leave because you know too much. Got it? It's like that. So we're also leaders. I can't even lie to you. Part of me, I feel some responsibility for what's going on. I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, did I do enough? What could I have done to get the message out there better? To be more of an example, right? What would the Raj Rishi, a saintly leader, do in this situation? I tell you honestly, from studying it, a real leader, a Krishna conscious leader, this situation would have never arisen in the first place. Because, and I was thinking practically, what would the real leader do? One idea I had, and I'm not saying that I've got this right, we're going to have a dialogue about this. I was thinking a real Krishna conscious leader in those communities that felt neglected, unheard, unvalued, we would be in those communities with the most famous people in the modern world, right? Because when the most famous people come there, all the attention goes there. When the attention goes there, what is the message? We're paying attention, we hear you, we feel your pain, we acknowledge you, you're important. And then on the ground, what will they be doing? They'll be doing welfare work for those people with their own bare hands, right? Because, and it wouldn't be about saying a thing. Just by doing that, the message that would be sent is, you know what? You are important. You're valuable. Huh? I hear you. I feel you. I care about you. So many people will be ready to embrace a higher understanding of life, but they have to feel that love, right? They have to feel that love. They have to know that there is a supreme person who sees what you go through, who feels your pain, and who really cares about your experience. And this is our philosophy, by the way. Paraduki duki kripam buddhi. An advanced devotee literally feels the happiness and the suffering of others. I remember hearing a class, right, by one devotee, I won't mention his name, who's very advanced. And what happened was he was able to experience the pain that the soul was feeling in an animal's body. Right? And to be honest, they don't normally talk about that kind of stuff, but he was actually relaying that in the class, which I thought was extraordinary. I wish I'd have actually saved that class. He was able to actually perceive through this very deep sense of empathy. He was able to actually perceive what the animal was experiencing being trapped in that particular body. And actually, to be honest with you, that is something that is available through high states of spiritual life. Our time, now we have work to do. You and I, we have work to do. We have work to do to reclaim our family members, right? And when I say family, every single living entity, in whatever kind of body that they are in, whatever kind of nationality, even down to the species, you and I, we are our brothers and sisters' keeper, right? And whatever injustice they are experiencing is the injustice of your own children. Got it? Right? And just like you would naturally feel pain to see your own child mistreated in any way, shape, or form, in any dimension, we should feel that same pain when we see any member of our spiritual divine family mistreated. So I don't know about you, but I feel pressure now. I feel challenged. I feel challenged to up my game in I'd say at least 3 dimensions. One is, I'll be honest, I don't want to burn out. I don't want to burn out. I don't want to become an example of how, because some people feel like this. To be honest, there are some people who are just a bit selfish. And if they see people who are trying to do something positive and they see that person burn out, they take it as evidence to verify their selfishness. Well, look, it doesn't work. Look what happened to him. He tried to do good. He's just burnt out. It's not possible. And they'll step back, right? So I don't want to be a bad example. And second point, in the name of helping other people, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be that doctor who's very enthusiastic to serve and does not know medicine, right? Doesn't know how to operate, right? I understand that in order to step up to what is required at this time, which has always been required, by the way, but it's being shown to be required in a more intense way right now. In order to step up, I can't be that doctor who doesn't know what they're doing. That means if you want to help society, you better damn well get yourself qualified, okay? Sentiment is not enough anymore, right? I don't want to hear from anyone. If you've got a sentiment to help society, but you're not prepared to read the books and really understand the philosophy, and you're not prepared to chant your rounds, you don't care enough for people, you don't care enough for yourself to make any connection to Krishna to help, then don't write to me, okay? And don't think that you're some kind of revolutionary. I went out, I held up some banner. I'm really trying to make a difference. You're lazy, right? Those days have gone, right? We actually, if we really want to make a difference, it requires us to do something with ourselves while we're trying to help other people. The real person who's going to help people is not you, by the way. I repeat that. You're not going to help anyone. Krishna is going to help people through us to the extent that we're connected. Did everyone hear what I'm saying? And I'm sorry if this sounds a bit blatant, but I really mean it. Okay? I really mean it. I don't want to hear about people who are sentimental. I don't want to hear about people who are selfish. If you want to make a lasting and sustainable difference, it also requires us to work on ourselves. It's not an easy operation, people. Right? I'm going to give you one simple example, and I don't care whether it's politically correct or not. So what will happen now is that there'll be people who want to create a space for people of different backgrounds. And what they're going to say is, I want to hear you, I want to understand, I want to acknowledge your pain. And they're going to hear different things from different people. But because naturally, in anybody, there's a whole variety of different perspectives. What works for one person is not going to work for another person. Got it? Right? So when one person says, the way that you can make me feel heard is like this, they're going to do it. And when they do it for another person, that person can say, that doesn't work for me. In fact, I don't like it. Okay? So this is not these are not quick fixes, right? This is not black. It's not like there's a right answer simply, right? The vast range of humanity, the vast range of diverse voices, experiences, opinions. Now we're going to have to navigate that in a very sensitive way. But it begins with listening. It begins with creating a mature and open space where people can really speak about their experiences and holding a space for healing. Okay? Holding a space for healing. Unfortunately, the leaders of society right now, I'll be honest, in many cases do not have a clue what they're doing. Okay? But you know what? Every single one of you on the call as a devotee, you are also a leader. You are also a leader. And in some ways, we are more responsible than others because we've been gifted with a certain level of insight and understanding about the human condition, about what happens when people act in different ways, and about the entire goal of human existence. Right? So to be really honest with you, as much as there are other groups responsible for the issues that are going on in society, every single one of us, you and I, we're also responsible. Right? And what does compassion look like? Compassion means you now take this ancient wisdom and you translate it in two key ways. Number one, you translate it through your day-to-day behavior. Okay, got it? And it includes telling people about Krishna, but even when you're not telling people about Krishna, you tell them by your behavior. Okay? So number one, you translate it by your behavior. day to day. Believe it or not, there will be many people and many of us who are devotees because we interacted with devotees in a previous life. We didn't even know they were devotees, but they had done the work themselves. They'd purified themselves. They chanted their rounds properly. They associated properly. They heard the classes properly. They did service sincerely. And they interacted with us. We didn't know they were a devotee, but they were so pure, so well behaved. We thought, you know what? I just like that guy. And when we appreciated them, what happened was we gained this agyata sukriti. It built up our spiritual credit. And just as someone was that example for us, now the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Prabhupada, our acharyas are asking us to be the example for someone else. You understand? And you can't, it's not something you can do just by talking, although that's important. You have to do it by behavior. You have to do it by lifestyle. Okay? So the first translation is behavior. The second translation is when you communicate a message, be sensitive to the position of who you're communicating with. This is on purpose, by the way. That's always been the case. I've seen this, right? What does Krishna do? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a genius. So we understand philosophically that we're not the center. And I've seen the devotees, yes, I've read that in the books. But you can understand the difference between what you understand consciously and what you really believe by how you behave. What you believe is shown by your behavior. And what you understand philosophically, that's what you reel off when you're giving the ISKCON cliches. Okay? So, for example, and we've all been guilty of this, when I don't really understand where another person is coming from, that's the disease called I am the center of the universe. Right? And it's a very deep disease. Right? So I'm the center of the universe. So I'm going to say what I like. I'm going to tell you that the philosophy in the way that I find it inspiring. I don't care how you find it, really, because it's not about you. It's about me, right? It's about me. I will say what I like, when I like, how I like, and if you don't accept it, you know what? You're a Maya. But if I'm actually developing a mood of real compassion, then it's no longer about me, right? It's no longer about me. And this is it's a difficult space to be in. I'll be honest, it's not an easy space. To be selfless isn't easy because the whole material world and all the conditioning and all the advertising says, don't worry about other people. It's all about you, honey. It's all about you. You're the center. If people say you something you don't like, I don't care, right? Let me curse them out. But when I say something that people didn't like, then it's like, okay, but you didn't understand my intention. Why didn't you you didn't take into account my feelings? I read in my spiritual master's book, Spiritual Warrior 2, he said, you will notice that there are some people, wherever they go, they receive love, they receive care, they receive appreciation, they receive consideration. And then he said, and it hit me, it hurt me actually, I won't lie, it hurt me because I saw I wasn't like that. Then he said, if you look carefully into the lives of such people, he said the reason why wherever they go, they receive that kind of feeling is because they themselves give that to other people. And it hurt me because I looked and I thought, yeah, I don't do that. Right? Kali Yuga, age of quarrel, which you've seen, and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, where I want everyone to pay attention to me, but I don't give a damn about anyone else. I don't try to understand anyone else. I don't want to consider anyone else, but I want everyone else to do that for me. So we have to change, right? And it's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be a sensitive journey. And sometimes it's going to be an uncomfortable journey. And sometimes when we do it, we're going to be faced with situations where we're going to see Krishna going to show, look, this is what's in your heart. And it's really ugly. You need to clean this away. okay? And that's going to come in our interactions with each other. Anyway, this is just by way of some thoughts. We've got about, 45 minutes to an hour. I just want to see the kind of comments, and then we want to really take this in the direction, because I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm going to put my email address in the chat window. I'd love to dialogue, but I'll tell you honestly, I'm really, and again, people may not like this, but I'm asking all of you to now be mature, because sometimes things which may be said, even with good intention, may be a trigger for other people, right? And to have the strength to think, you know what? Yeah, you know what? Even though this was said and I don't like it, I also understand that this is my brother and sister. They're a family member. We're going to have a real dialogue and try and move ourselves forward. We're going to try and bring the family back together. Does that make sense? But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. The only way to overcome negativity and hatred is with love. But it doesn't even stop there. It's got to be love applied maturely, wisely, and even in some circumstances, strongly. Strongly. We have to do that. Don't wait for anyone else to solve the issues that we're seeing in society right now. And the society means our internal society and the society at large, okay? So again, you want to be a revolutionary because it's a fad, it looks good, people are going to give you likes on Facebook, don't talk to me. If that's your mood, I don't want to hear from you, because I know you will fall flat on your face and you'll be a bad example for everyone else. You want to be a revolutionary and you care enough about people that you're going to go through some pain. You're going to get out of bed, you're going to actually chant your rounds properly. You're going to read the books even though you find some of the purples boring, right? You don't want to read, it's like, oh my God, he's telling me again I'm not the body and Krishna is the supreme personality of God, right? But you're going to read it because you know that by reading it, you're going to get purified, and it's going to make you more of an instrument to help other people. If you're prepared to do some work, rather than just stand around, with a selfie on Facebook about how you protested, and that makes you really woke. If you're going to do some work, then we can have a conversation. But unless you're prepared to do that, I don't have time. Because you and we don't have time. The day you saw this coronavirus, the message was that the ratio of sinful karma in the world to the ratio of devotional energy that was counteracting that negative karma, that ratio was falling even more out of sync. That's what the situation showed. Okay? So I really implore you, get your finger out. Okay? Let's do the work and let's do it together. I have ideas about how it could be done. Okay? You have ideas about how it could be done, but it has to be done in connection to Krishna consciousness. The world is full of do-gooders. And I'm sorry to say, sometimes I get sick of this idea of just people being do-gooders, because if you scratch beneath the surface, many times they're not prepared to do the inner work, right? And if you think that you're so great, that if you were put in a position of authority, that you would not in any way misuse your power, that you would not in any way take advantage of your position, if you think that your heart is so pure that you would have no issue and you would be perfect, you're also part of the problem, because you don't even know yourself. Got it? And I hope that doesn't, no, I don't care if it sounds harsh, actually, I'm lying. I don't mind if it sounds harsh. I really mean that. I really mean that. We have work to do. And the work, as much as it's outside of us, the work is equally inside of us. Okay? There's no cheap answers here. And that doesn't mean that we don't do practical work, by the way. It doesn't mean that we don't go out and that we don't also show that we're equally disgusted about what has happened, right? Even though we're not the body, still, right? Still, we're seeing people being mistreated on that basis, and we do not accept it. Okay, got it? Right? That's one point. Second, when we want to bring about healing, we're not just going to give whatever aspects of the philosophy comes to mind because we're lazy. We're going to connect with an individual wherever they are. And we're going to present the philosophy always by our example, and in whatever way is most relevant to them, not how we feel like doing it. However is most relevant to them, where they are, we're going to show them that actually Krishna consciousness is for you, because Krishna loves you just as much as he loves every single living entity. And his love is real, it's tangible, right? And we are going to do the work. If you care about other people, if you really care, if you just like to be lazy and do some protest because it's the fad, fine. But again, don't talk to me, okay? If you're not prepared to do something and work on yourself, and if you think the problem is just everyone else, but I have no body consciousness, right? I have no envy. I have no tendency to mistreat people, to neglect people. If you think you're one of those people, then either that means you're a Paramahamsa or you're a fool. Okay? Okay. And at that point, let's stop and see what you have as a question or comments. So I'm just going to bring up the chat. And let's see where we are. Okay, I'm going to try and take it from the top. And I'm just going to check with, let's see, let me just check. Do this. I'm just going to check with Yash. So what's the best way forward? Should I just take the questions? Do you want to, because we'll look at the questions and comments. Before I even go to questions and comments, I want to plant a seed in your mind. I want you to think two things. What am I not doing about myself in order to be more of an instrument of Krishna's compassion? How can I be more of an instrument of Krishna's compassion? That's question number one, right? Write this down. Number one, how can I be more of an instrument for Krishna's compassion? Okay, number one. Number two, right? And with the second question, think about it yourself, but speak to other people. What role should I be playing to make more of a difference? Okay, that's number two. Okay, and by the way, the other thing that sickens me, and I hope none of you on the call are doing it, don't think that because you have one role that everyone has to do what you're doing. Got it? Right? We have to stop this impersonalism. The impersonalism, whatever works for me, that's what everyone else has to do. And if they don't do it, then there's something wrong with them. Let's really try and become mature now. We absolutely have to step up our game. Okay? So number two, what role should I be playing? And ask your friends as well. Right? And I'll give you an example. I know that there's so many more things I can communicate that can inspire people and that can strengthen each other. I love being around you guys. I love being around devotees. Right? I can honestly say, when I'm around all of you, even looking at you guys on screen, this keeps coming to my mind, my family. I'm around my family, right? And I feel for you. And I think, what can I do to just show you just how much I really love and value and appreciate the fact that we're together, right? And that we're family together. What can I do to learn from you, right? Because I don't have all the answers, but you're valuable, you're important. And you may say to me, BBD, I think this is a good idea, right? And I think, you know what? I didn't think about that. I couldn't have thought about that, but I'm so glad that I know you and you're able to help me on my journey and help me to become a better devotee, a better person, right? So number two is, what can I do? What role can I play? And speak to other people, speak to people you know. And for some, it may be you have that nature, you can be more of an activist, right? Online or in other ways. Some of you have a nurturing nature and you have that ability to make people feel loved. Do you know how important that is? I've done a study on this. I was putting together a seminar called 7 Habits of Highly Effective Devotees. One of the most important things that I saw, I've seen in my own life, the devotees who've gone from 0 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour. What was going on? What was going on is that they connected to a devotee who, by their own behavior and example and integrity and purity in that interaction, they were communicating directly and indirectly, you know what, you're valuable, you're important, I love you, right? You're significant. And it was amazing. What I saw happened was that in every single case, and I mean without fail, without exception, when a devotee was in that association, they really started to blossom. Because you can't blossom without feeling loved and valued and appreciated. What I saw was the devotees who were just like, I'll be honest, they were just knocking it out the park. They were just doing extraordinary things, internally and externally. How did they get there? They constantly received this communication that you're important, you're valuable, I love you, I care about you. And because they felt loved and cared for, what happened? I saw they became more and more secure as a person. I saw they became more and more confident as a person. I saw they had more and more faith as a person, right? They were ready to try different things. They were even more resilient, right? They try something, it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. You know what? Because I know I'm loved. I know that my value is not, it doesn't even matter if the service doesn't work out, right? I know that the people who I'm around, they love me and they adore me for who I am. And therefore, those people, they were able to take on the world, fearless. And I thought to myself, that's what I should be like, right? There's no substitute for that. That's what it means, faith. That's what faith means. To give people faith means to give people fearlessness, right? Fearlessness means that person feels so secure and confident that they are being protected and that they are being sheltered and that they are being loved and that they are being not acknowledged, right? And then also the raw side, like, let's be very real. The raw side is that sometimes someone does something wrong, but you know what? I've seen sometimes in our community, we don't understand what it means to be a leader, right? What's the first duty of the leader? The first duty of the leader is to reach out to the people that you're leading and let them know that you love them. And when they know that you love them, when they know that you care, when they know that you're on their side, then they trust you. And when they trust you, it's not even waiting till something goes wrong and then you have to correct them. When they trust you, what do? They go up to you, even in the good times, and they say, you know what? You've known me for some time. What do you think I need to work on? Open heart surgery. Got it? The heart becomes open to everything. Again, taking it back to the current situation. In those communities, it should never have got that bad in the first place. It should never have got a real Krishna conscious leader, a Raj Rishi. That would have never ever happened, because we would be in those communities with the sleeves rolled up, working on that ground, letting the people know, caring for our members of our family with our very own hands, to let them know that I love you, I care about you, I see where you are. And just by doing so, sending the message that there is a supreme personality of God. Oh, so they find out by accident, oh, are you a devotee? Yes, I'm a devotee. Oh, you believe in God? Yeah, I believe in God. In our tradition, his name is Krishna. Wow. Wow. Palpable, tangible. I'm giving prasadam out, whatever it is, and they begin to understand that there's a supreme person. When I look at all the ills in society, increasingly it boils down to one thing, that we are doing a terrible job. And I repeat, we are doing a terrible job in showing people that they are loved, they're valued, and they're adored. And I mean that within the movement. I mean that with the youth in our movement. I mean that with the elderly in our movement. You know what? If certain members of my family found out that even within our movement, in many cases where people are older, we don't take care of them properly, they'll think that these people are uncivilized. Okay? And that elderly member within our movement who does not get care, that elderly member is us in the future. It's you and I 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Got it? So none of this is theoretical. What I'm doing to other people is exactly what I am preparing to experience myself in the future. Okay, just to make it up close and personal. Okay, Yash, over to you. How are we going to do this in terms of questions?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, Prabhu. For questions, I put a link in the chat, everyone, if you can see it. If you can't, feel free to message me and I can send it again. But that question form is an anonymous question form. And if you've already sent me a question privately, I've made a note of it and I have it on the form. But just so that we can get all the questions in one place, it'll be easier to sift through for us. So if you can please write your question on that form, it'll help us organize. And then what I'll do, Prabhu, is I'll send those questions to you so that you can tackle them one by one.
Okay, but what I'm thinking also, because, and I'm, like I said, I'm happy to have this dialogue ongoingly, you know, to even have some more discussion if that works for you, because I think this is a real time for us to come together and to really heal in a mature way, but in a real way as well. You know, so it's going to be painful because sometimes we're going to bring up these experiences and wounds, right? And it's going to be that experience of really looking at this, looking at how the scab has formed, how the wound has formed. And I've been thinking a lot about permanent solutions. You can put a plaster on anything, but if you want to deal with things in such a way that you cause permanent improvement, it's not a one-off thing. It's not like, yeah, we had a seminar, everyone goes home. This is an ongoing dialogue, okay? And again, if you want to do this properly, make sure you plug yourself in, okay? And I'm telling you honestly, anyone on this call who's not prepared to do that work, you should understand that your compassion is superficial. Even, and I say that even though your intention is good, if you can't do some work or make some sacrifice in order to be in a space, in a consciousness, to really make a lasting difference, you should know that whether you like it or not, it means that your compassion is superficial, right? Nothing comes without some work, some sacrifice, some austerity, okay? But I'm just thinking, Yash, just because we want to also use the time as best as we can, while people are sending questions to you, should I look on the chat and start taking any questions which are on the chat, which just to begin the process? Would that work for you?
Yeah, so what I've done so far is I just sent you 2 questions right now.
Okay.
And so as you're answering them, I'll start flushing through the other questions that are coming on the form, and
Okay.
I'll send them to you in that order, and then you can tackle it as you like.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start, and like I said, we'll just go through as many as we can, and then we can go forward from there. But just bear in mind, I want you to, this whole thing is an opportunity for us to go deeper, right? So take your spiritual life more seriously if you want to see real change. Don't think you're going to be a hero or a martyr. Take it more seriously and let's work on ourselves. Let's do it together. Let's confront the things in our heart that, you know what, is ugly. And that has also contributed to the mess that we see now. Got it? Let's try and do that. It takes some bravery, but let's try. I'm going to take the first question. Let's see. 1, what are some practical things that we can do as an ally and also as a devotee? Okay. What's coming to my mind is healing, creating space, and also being practical, okay? So let's bring that to life with some examples. Do you know how powerful it is when you reach out to someone and you just actually say to them, you know what, I'm thinking about you. Now, how are you feeling about what's going on? How can I support you? Right? When in the world where we have many people who lack emotional intelligence, they think it's the soft things. It's not the soft things. Everything builds upon that. If we had built enough bonds and relationships as a family, and my spiritual master kept saying that, we should look at everything from the family model. Someone else in the family is feeling pain. Someone else in the family is screaming out for love, for acceptance, for knowledge. What do I do? Do I just say, oh, but the philosophy says this? Or do I understand it's my brother or sister who's in pain? And do I look at it through that lens? So we should try and look at everything through a family model. Look at every situation in that way. My brother is feeling pain, or my sister is feeling pain. And how would I want to be approached? And in many cases, we won't know fully because they're not us, right? But there are some universals. I can reach out. I can give time. I can say to the person, how can I support you? I can say to the person, you know what? I just wanted to send you a message to say that I love you. I appreciate you. And you know, this is what really upsets me, to be honest. And again, this is the leadership point. It should never have got to this point. We should have been doing this on a day-to-day basis. If you as a leader, if you as a devotee, if you are not expressing love, appreciation, and support on a day-to-day basis, you're also part of the problem. I can't remember how many times I've seen in the community of the devotees an incident comes up and no one can speak to that person. And I'm like, who are they close to? And they're not close to anyone. And why are they not close to anyone? Because no one has been reaching and building a relationship with that person. Only talking to that person now when everything has gone wrong. Right? And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Why is it they have no relationship with anyone? Oh, well, we were all doing our own thing. It's not good enough. Right? If the governments had built relationships in those communities, do you think this situation would happen the same way? Do you really think that would happen? Of course not. Because if the relationship was there, the communities would just be saying, you know what, this is how we're feeling, right? When you build relationship, you open the lines of communication. You open the flow of affection, which mitigate issues before the issues even occur. Right? So everything starts from the subtle to the gross. Mode of goodness is the most refined. Mode of ignorance is the most gross. So when you see a society who only recognize something when it's on your doorstep as a riot or a fire, it means you're dealing with a society which are in real trouble. Okay? We're meant to preempt. We're meant to build the relationships proactively in our community, right? And we're meant to build the bonds so strongly in our community so that people, they're knocking down our doors saying, you know what, I want to be part of your community. I've seen the way you love each other. I've seen the way you care for each other. I've seen the way you heal each other. And just when a loving parent gives you time and attention, which means that you're valued, when we as a community give people time and attention, you know what? They interpret our behavior. And they look at it and think, you know what? I've seen by the way that you deal with me, there must be a God. There must be a God. The affection, the love, the concern, the care, the genuine readiness to facilitate me, sign me up. Right? Where's the bead bag? I'm ready to dedicate my time to what you're doing because your behavior has shown me that there is a supreme personality of God, not who just loves me, right? I'm kind of going on a bit of a vent. This kind of, I want to be somebody. If any of you, if you hear me say something like that in the future, slap me, right? Because what are we really saying? Okay, right now you're poor, you're nobody. But when you become a big person, when you become a social media star, when you get a big job, then you become somebody? Really? Is that the message you want to send to your children? Really? I'm not, that's not the message I'm sending. We're somebody now. Everyone is significant now. Independent of economic success, independent of what they are looking like, independent of anything. You don't become somebody. Right? That's not our teachings. You do not become somebody. You are eternally somebody. And that's the message we're meant to communicate. So practicality, give time to people, right? And if it means you have to inconvenience yourself sometimes, do it. Yeah, inconvenience yourself, right? Give your time to people, and especially people who need it. Okay, not just the people that you feel like giving it to. Okay, go outside of your comfort zone, right? But do it wisely. Give time and attention, and don't think it's a small thing. It's actually the foundation for everything else. If I love you, if I trust you, then when you say BBD, I like your classes, but you know what? I feel you could do this, you could do that, but I'm all in. I'm open. I can hear you. Okay? So time and attention is really, really important. Let me just see if there's anything else. I'm going back to your question. Some practical things we can do as an ally and as a devotee. Yeah, purify yourself. Become a better devotee. You're not going to be able to make so much difference just by talking about it. Okay? And don't think you're the most woke person in ISKCON, okay? Don't think you're the most, you're the most, I'm the most kind of non-envious, accepting person in ISKCON. Don't think that, right? Be humble. Rather look and see, what do I need to improve? And again, if you think you've got nothing to prove, just switch off. Switch off your Zoom, go somewhere else, okay? This is for the brave hearts. Brave hearts. Brave enough to look into my own heart, face my own demons, work on my own self while I'm trying to be there for other people, okay? That's what we have to do right now. So these are some practical things. And if you want to go, I mean, again, I'm not pushing that everyone has to do what I will do, okay? But what I will say is do things maturely, right? What I will say is do things maturely, do things wisely. We need you to be in the best possible shape that you can be in so that we can keep bringing this teaching out to other people. Live it, follow it, imbibe it. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to say, especially if you're in the US, you need to be a little bit more confident, okay? We need you to push the movement on, okay? You need to take it to the next step. And however you do that, I don't mind, but we need you to do that. Your country is in bad shape. It's our country as well, but you're living there, okay? And the atmosphere will change even just by the way you actually practice devotional service. I think it was 1976. Prabhupada was in one place in America. I can't remember which state, but that particular state was the slaughterhouse capital of America at the time, okay? And what happened was the weather was bitterly cold. And so Prabhupada told the devotees, he said, if you can just get them to close down these slaughterhouses, immediately the weather will change. He said that. He said, immediately the weather will change like that. So don't think that what we're doing is just like, oh yeah, it's like you're doing devotional service, not really making a difference. It makes a difference. It makes a difference, right? So it's not either or, it's both and, okay? It's both and. Get yourself properly connected and reach out to the devotees properly and create a space for healing, right? I don't want to hear from anyone on this group that you're just one of the triggered people. I don't want to hear that, right? And that doesn't mean that you don't air your pain, right? It doesn't, because you're expressing your pain, it doesn't mean that just because you're expressing your pain, it doesn't mean that you can't do it maturely. Got it? Right? It doesn't mean you can't do it maturely. Now is the time to role model what we want everyone else to be. Right? Those times of just saying everyone has to listen to me, they're gone. I have to be the change that I want to see in others. I have to help myself to heal. I have to reach out for help as well. That's the other thing. If you need help, reach out for it. Right? Don't be shy to do that. But if you do that, you're doing great service, practical service, because you're modeling how we're going to get through this together. Does that make some sense? Okay, let me just take it a step further. Going back to this question, is it okay to feel angry right now, or is that the mode of passion? No, it's good if you feel angry, but it's not the anger that's the issue. It's what do you do with it, okay? If you get angry and then you just lash out at other people, you're part of the problem, okay? But if you feel deeply upset about the injustices which have been going on for a long time between all different, so many different groups, especially what we're seeing highlighted now, if that anger galvanizes you to wise action, progressive action, then I'm all with you, okay? If it galvanizes you to mature, thoughtful, wise action, right? And especially including connecting yourself properly in Krishna consciousness, then I'm completely 100% behind you, okay? One other thing on this anger point, and again, it's a bit of a shameless plug, but I'm not getting the money for it. It's just because I think it will genuinely help. One of the books that my spiritual master wrote, I believe it's Spiritual Warrior 4 or 5, anyway, I think it's a red one. There's a whole chapter on anger. And there's a section in there on I think the heading is healthy anger, okay? So I only say that because maybe we'll do a seminar on this in the future. There's a misunderstanding about how we use emotions in Krishna consciousness. Now, if you have anger, and you just repress it, it actually gets worse. It doesn't get better, okay? If you have anger and you try to think, I'm a devotee, I shouldn't be angry, and you deny the anger, again, it comes out in some negative way. It becomes worse. What you do with your emotions is the first step with emotions is you acknowledge them, okay? By acknowledging them, you can then work with the emotions, right? So sometimes there's a misunderstanding because these things are subtle, right? So when people feel something, oh, but scripture says I shouldn't feel angry, so then I deny the fact that I feel angry. And it doesn't go away. It becomes unconscious, and then you'll find you start fantasizing about shouting at people, right? I've seen that, and maybe some of you have seen that. You're fantasizing. Next time I see them, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna put them in their place. I'm gonna tell them, and you just see this person getting tense. It hasn't gone away. You just internalized it. You're still angry, right? It comes up in your dreams. It comes up in your fantasies. No, acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge it. And then when you acknowledge it, let's start to work with it. What was behind that, right? That anger that I'm feeling, why am I feeling that anger? How do I express it maturely? First through my own friendship circle, so I can get those emotions out and explore them in an open and honest way, so I don't carry that. And then from there, the next level is, what does it mean in terms of what I should be doing, right? Maybe I need to address something, right? But you see, it's a very interesting way to look at it through the modes, right? So what you have is, in the mode of ignorance, you may be overly submissive. In the mode of passion, you may be overly aggressive. In the mode of goodness, you are assertive. You see it? It's the same core emotion, but it's expressed in different ways, right? To feel something, you should be honest about it, and then you can start to explore it. You get it out in my spiritual master said, with a close friend, you should be able to say anything, and you should be able to get feedback from a close friend. I discussed this with him, a group of us. So what you do is you explore it, and then what you do through exploring it, you bring it out to its mode of goodness version, right? So if you find you're always feeling upset because you feel like you've been pushed around, and if by feeling like you've been pushed around, you're building up anger and rage, then your mind is telling you that you need to be more assertive. Don't flip to being overly aggressive, because passion and ignorance are unstable. You think, okay, what's the mode of goodness expression, right? You take the same element and you think, you get yourself to the point where you can start to express that element in the mode of goodness. Okay, that's the way we do it. That's what it means to be mature. Another example, I'm feeling envy for someone. Okay, what does that mean? Envy is a mode of ignorance, okay? So if I'm feeling envy, it means actually it's because I value something that they're doing, isn't it? You don't feel envious towards someone who's got nothing. If you're envious towards that person, you're seeing that there's some value, okay? So in the mode of ignorance, it's envy. I want to destroy what they have. I want to take what they have. In the mode of passion, that same element is called jealousy. I don't want to take what they have, but I want to outdo them, right? However many likes they've got on Facebook, I want more likes than they have, okay? So in the mode of passion, it's jealousy. In the mode of goodness, it's appreciation. Okay, yeah, that was a great thing that they achieved, right? So we need to bring it up to the higher expression. When we feel something, just look, okay, what is it? And start to see, how can I bring this to a higher expression? Don't deny what you feel, right? Because actually, you know what? The gift, when we feel some of this envy or negativity, the gift is humbling, isn't it? Right? I don't want to feel envious, but I do, right? I don't want, when I saw that person get that round of applause, I felt, you know what? I felt envy, right? We all experience it. And if we develop a mature community, how do you know you've developed a mature community? Is that people can be honest and we can deal with the real issues as a family, right? You felt envy towards me? Okay, I felt envy towards you when this happened, right? You know? And it's like, yeah, I love you, right? I love you. I appreciate the fact that you could say that to me, right? Because this is another big thing. I'm glad you asked that question. Unless we respond maturely, this is my fear. I'm going to be very honest with you. My fear is, with so many of the things going on, if we don't create a space for open, honest, and mature dialogue, what will happen is people will start thinking, I can't say anything, I can't say something. They don't stop feeling a certain way. They just think, I can't say something because if I say it, I may be labeled the bad person. Someone may attack me. So it doesn't go away, right? It doesn't go away, it goes underground. There's a study, I wanted to tell you this. There was a study, there's a guy, and his name's Goffman. I think it's spelled Goffman. And he's done a study. He's able to predict with 94% accuracy if a marriage will break up. 94% accuracy. What does he look for? What he does is he looks at how the couple interact. And he looks to see if there is a buildup of resentment or frustration or negative emotions between the couple, and they're unable to express it, right? So what he noticed was when there's a relationship between people and there's something boiling up beneath the surface, and the people who are supposed to be in a relationship, they can't have honest, open discussions, right? So I can't tell you how I really feel, because the last time I told you how I really felt, you slammed me, right? You just cut me down. I didn't stop feeling that way. I just became angry and resentful and bitter to you because you cut me down. So now this resentment boils up, but I can't tell you. Boils up, I can't tell you, because if I tell you, you won't be able to take it. And then, so think of it, what mode are we talking about? When I can't really say what I really feel, although I've got pain, I'm upset, I'm angry, what mode are we talking about? The mode of what? Ignorance, right? And the mode of ignorance leads to what? Begins with D. The mode of ignorance leads to destruction, right? So that's the thing I don't want. And the way to stop that is that that's why I'm emphasizing mature space. It's not space, it's mature space, right? So even someone says something and you think, you know what, that's wrong, right? But I'm not going to shoot you down. I'm going to explain to you in a mature, but also emphatic. I'm not saying don't be strong. Sometimes you need to be strong. Let's be very clear on that, right? But I'm going to do it in a way that's appropriate and mature. And I'm going to let you know, I love you. I know you're a member of my family. And it's because I love you as a member of my family that I'm going to address what you've just said, right? One of the things I can honestly say, I think Krishna is revealing to me at this time, and this is something I'm trying to embody in my own life, is the power of polarity, okay? And I'll explain what I mean by that. You've got some people who are very caring, but they may lack strength of character, right? If you're just nice, oh, I'm just nice, I'm harmless, I'm caring, then when people are being mistreated, you won't have the strength to say, no, that's wrong, okay? Because you're so used to just being the nice person who, whatever people say is nice and, we don't upset anyone. Then you go the other side, the person who's just very strong and domineering, right? Wherever they come, they just want to push, whatever I think is my view, I'm going to dominate. But you don't have the other side, then you're just bossy and overbearing, and then just people can't be around you, right? Now look at this, right? If we look at it again through the modes, overly passive, mode of what? Passive. The mode of ignorance, right? Overly passive, mode of ignorance. Overly pushy and domineering, the mode of passion. So what we see, and this is what we need in the world, the mode of goodness is where you bring these two things together. Look at this, right? If I'm strong enough to protect others, and I'm compassionate enough to love and care for others, then what happens when you mix these two ingredients together? When you have someone who's strong and caring, that's called protection. That's called protective. You see? And when people feel protected, then they can be at their best. Right? Do you see how it works? Right? So we need to start to blend these ingredients together. And then in any situation, we need to know how much to express strength in that situation, although the care is always there as well, and how much to express care in that situation, although the strength is always there as well. It's not one or the other, right? The mode of goodness is where you have both things harmonized and you know how much to express each ingredient according to time, place, and circumstance. Does that make sense? And that's what the world needs now. It needs the motherly energy, that nurturing sense. It needs the fatherly energy, that strong and that protective sense. It needs them all brought together, right? And because we haven't done that, that's why, whether it's environmental, social, whatever it is, that's why we're in the mess that we are in. Make sense? Okay, sorry, let me go on to the other questions. Or actually, Yash, do you want to just ask me? Actually, should I just read out the next question, or is it better to take it from you? Because I also have a tendency to go over, so apologies in advance for that. What's the best way to proceed?
Yeah, so whatever you would like. I sent you 2 more questions that came up.
Okay,
and
yeah. Sorry.
yeah, so if you want to go for those, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, sorry about that. So the next one, what can we do as devotees to start a conversation at our dinner tables at home? Whenever I bring this topic up, I only hear we're not this body, but this super soul. Okay, so this is again maturity, right? So the first thing is, if I've reached out and that person, for whatever reason, is not willing to engage, right? Follow me through, right? Because I'm going to make it something practical. They're not ready to engage and I've reached out. Give me in the chat window, what would be the mode of ignorance response? You tell me, I'm not going to tell you, right? I've tried to reach out to have that conversation at the dinner table, and the people I'm speaking to, for whatever reason, they're not ready to have that engage that conversation. What's the mode of ignorance response? Okay, lash out, shutting them out. Yep. Dismiss them completely. Yeah. Ignorance. Yeah. Be cowed away. Frustration. Okay. Darshan, give up. Okay. Let's take the other side, right? They're not ready to engage at this time. Give me the mode of passion response. What's the mode of passion response? Okay. Give silent treatment, berate them, lash out, fight, argue, get angry with them into fight, yell. Okay. Overly aggressive, keep trying to convert them. Okay. Keep forcing my view. Okay. Pause, right? See, this is it, right? I don't need to tell you, right? We all know this instinctively. Now, and this is where it gets a little bit more sensitive, now you're going to tell me, what is that mature mode of goodness response? I tried to bring up the conversation at the dinner table with my family. Because I'm sick and tired of the mode of passion and ignorance. And you should be too, right? Because the mode of goodness is sustainable. So now, what's the mode of goodness response? Okay, let's see. Be patient, speaking where they can understand. Be humble, speaking as if all is knowledgeable. Work hard and have a deep understanding. Hold space to listen. Yeah, understand their perspective. Yes, so let's pause there. So first of all, thank you. Do you see how easy it is if we really think about it? It's not that we don't have answers. It's that we don't bother. It's not that we can figure these things out, right? So next time you want to get into a conversation, just think about the approach, because the mode of ignorance leads to destruction. The mode of passion is nectar in the beginning and it's poison in the end. The mode of goodness, it starts with some difficulty, right? And like, for example, for years, so I'll make it very real. My parents, when I was getting married, myself, my wife, we had a meeting with our family members, and they were like, if you get married in the temple, we will not come to your wedding, right? That was it, right? It was basically like an ambush. We went to visit some of the relatives. I don't know, 12, 15 relatives. We didn't know what they were gonna say. It's like, don't get married at the temple, like really against it, because they're Christian background, they had a different view. And we could have gone we could have lashed out. We could have been like, no, I've got to write this and that. We didn't do that, right? Mode of goodness is also where you try to understand, because sometimes, let's be very real here. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes the reason why they don't want to get into a conversation with us is because of something that we've done. Can anyone relate to that? Or is it just me? Be honest, right? I know for myself, the first time I went to Mayapur in India, I didn't tell my parents. I got on the plane. I told them when I got to India. They were not too happy. You understand what I'm trying to say? I was immature, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm in no illusion. I'm not like, oh, my parents, I know I have a role to play in that. Okay? And if we're honest, oftentimes we have a role to play because of some immaturities in our past, in the ways that we dealt with things. That's why some conversations are not happening, right? This is what I was talking about. So the first question I would ask myself, if that's happening, what do I need to do? right? What's behind it? Maybe I'm approaching it in a way that's not the right way for them. Or maybe I'm approaching it at a time. So let's be very honest. So in our community in London, I've seen people, I've been on numerous Zoom calls where we're singing bhajans, doing kirtan and doing prayers for people who had passed away. They've died, right? Their family is in mourning and they're so aggrieved. And why are they so aggrieved? Because they couldn't even come to the funeral, right? Because of the whole social distancing, they would have liked to have gone to the funeral. Their relative passed away and they had to watch it on the screen. Can you imagine? Your relative passed away, you couldn't even come to the funeral. You had to stay home and watch on the screen, right? And if I want to bring up a topic and they're not ready to hear it, oh, they're bad. No, they're grieving. They're grieving. Her dad passed away. She's in pain, right? As much as I want to talk about the conversation, it's not all about me, right? Did I try to understand what's happening in her life? Or is it that I'm another selfish person who everyone else should work around my schedule, work around my interests, work around my priorities, and do things when I feel like doing it? Right? Because if I'm like that towards other people, that's what's going to happen to me. Yeah? So I would start by looking at myself and trying to understand, right? So, so Dad, I've noticed that when I brought this up, you've responded in this way, right? Now, for me, and this is another thing we can do, I learned this also from my spiritual master. He talked about this. He said that when someone responds the way that you don't think is appropriate, he said one of the best things you can do is you can go to that person and say, Prabhu, in this situation, I expected you to respond in this way, but instead you responded in this way. Can you please help me to understand why you responded the way that you did, right? It's not easy to do. It's a very mature thing, but that's what he said. And he also mentioned how in many cases, if we should own our emotions. So I just want to say that when this happened, I felt like this, right? You see, there's a difference. There's a difference between saying, you made me feel like this, and saying, when this happened and you said this, I felt this way. And I felt this way for this reason, right? Do you see how mature that is? Right? And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that I always manage to do it. I don't. But I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right? I feel this is a golden opportunity to bring up some real healing. But this is what I was getting at. The healing takes place when we create a space so that people are able to say what they really feel. And when they really say what they really think, we have to respond in such a way that says to them that when you tell me the truth, I'm going to respond in such a way that we can keep you open and we can have an honest conversation. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the real issues. If I shut you down, I know that you're not going to tell me the truth in the future. You're not going to change how you feel, by the way. I've just pushed it underground, and then you're going to go away and it's going to come up in some other way, right? And then I can go around telling everyone I did a great job, but I know it's just going to come up in some other way later on. So it's up to you what you want. I want to see real healing, okay? I don't know what you want to see. I want to see real healing, lasting healing, right? Not just someone lashing out and then you drive the issue underground, right? This situation, this is what happens when you neglect an issue. This is what happens when you drive an issue underground and people are so foolish that they think that by hiding it away that somehow it's going to get better. It doesn't get better. When you drive an issue underground, it only gets worse. Does that make some sense? Yeah. So that's why I feel could be important. Let me go to see any other comments. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back up because I think we've moved slightly. Be patient. Okay. I can't. Oh, okay. Gopika, acknowledge the truth and value the philosophical principle, but also offer another perspective. That's fine. And the other thing is also, sometimes don't think that what you say doesn't have an impact. When you plant a seed, the tree doesn't immediately appear, okay? So sometimes when you address something with someone, even though they don't understand it at that time, later on, they will come to appreciate it if it's the right thing. I'll give you a very simple example. Before I became a devotee, I had a friend called Grace. We were at college together, and she was a Christian and she was vegetarian. And I was speaking with her one time, and she told me, she said, I really think the people who eat meat, it has an effect on them. It makes them more aggressive. And I just lashed out. I said, that's absolute rubbish. Okay. And I was eating meat at the time. I didn't understand what she was saying. Years later, I remember that conversation. I thought, yeah, she was actually completely correct. Right. So she told me at the time, and this is the magic of Krishna consciousness. I'll tell you honestly, if you tell someone something that Krishna wants them to know and they don't listen, what will actually happen is Krishna will send someone else to tell them the same thing, right? And if they don't listen, he'll send someone else to tell them the same thing in slightly different ways. And if they don't listen, after all, Krishna will say, dude, I sent 7 people to tell you. Dude, 7 people, and you still didn't listen, slap. It's just that simple. So don't think that you're alone, right? This is what I mean by we're not the doer. Don't think you're alone. Don't think that because you said it and they didn't accept it, therefore it's the end of the story, right? We should think, do your part, do your duty, right? Sometimes the rock is worn down by water, but one drip at a time. You said it, they didn't listen. Okay, I offered the best that I can. I'm not God, right? I can't make you change. And if you think that, you'll become always frustrated, isn't it? You'll become frustrated because you keep trying, it doesn't work because you're not God. But we should try our best. We should do the best we can with the best motive in the best way. But we also have to have a bit of detachment that if I've done my best and they still don't accept it, at least I did my part, right? And if they don't listen, and this is what Krishna wants them to know, he's going to send someone else on, right? And they're gonna get there. And let's be honest, let's make it real. I like you to use use your hand sign. How many of you seen that happen? Where someone kept getting messages, they didn't listen, and Krishna eventually, bang. Honest, yeah, I've seen it. I've still got the scars, right? I'm telling you, I've still got the scars. Krishna's like, dude, I've told you 10 times now. Slap, right? If you can't hear, you're gonna have to feel. Okay, let's not harm ourselves by letting it get to that in the first place. That's how we work. You and I, we're like the postman. Our job is to deliver the message. If they don't get it, Krishna will deliver through someone else. If they don't get it, after a while, someone's going to knock at the door and make them understand. Don't worry. Just do your part and do it well. Make sense? Okay. I hate to see good-hearted people burn out because they've got this attachment that if I tell someone and they don't accept it, therefore I should give up. Do your best, but use your intelligence, and then you can make a difference. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. Yeah, and this, I just want to echo this point that's been made as well about, yes, self-care is part of the process of making a difference to the world. Okay. So we have to also take our time, lick our wounds, okay? And get the help that we need. Many of us are in a traumatized space where we're in pain, right? And you see, there's a difference between me lashing out and me telling a close friend, you know what? I'm really scared. You know what? I'm in pain. You know what? I feel hurt. I don't feel valued. You see? There's a big difference. And we should have those conversations as well. You know, if we're in pain, if we're upset, if we may have even had these, you know, dealt with people badly because of their background, and we recognize and we're ashamed of it, right? Or if we've seen that happen and we just kind of turned a blind eye because it wasn't happening to us, and we're embarrassed about it. We're ashamed. It's like, you know what? I've seen that happen. I saw that person said that to that person. And to be honest with you, I feel ashamed because I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just let it happen, even though I could have said something, even though I could have made a difference, even though I could have gone to that person and said, I support you. I didn't appreciate the way that you were treated, right? And I'm ready to speak up on your behalf or with you. Okay? And I know it's not easy, right? And I don't care what anyone says, it's not easy, because sometimes the people who are doing that, they're people who are your friends. Sometimes they're people who are your family, right? It can be anyone. I know it's not easy. So this is not some kind of ISKCON soundbite. Okay, this is real. But how do I make myself strong enough that I can have those conversations as well? Make some sense? Yeah, like that. And I know that many of us, it's not going to happen overnight, and I'm not expecting it to. But are we walking in that direction? Okay, are we walking in that direction? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any more questions. Okay, so let's see. In between qualification and good intentions or sentiments, a period of imperfection, practice, growth, and it takes different periods of time for different people. What are your suggestions for people during this transitional and often awkward phase? How should they conduct themselves when their heart is moved to help during this phase? Okay, so ask people, get into the habit. Don't even think this is just a special crisis. This should be our lives. Get into the habit of asking people and being honest with yourself. What do I need to work on? Okay, and don't ask the people who are going to tell you nice things. Ask the people who are going to tell you the truth. Ask the people who really know you, who are going to tell you the truth and say, you know what, I've noticed that sometimes you do treat this person unfairly, right? And give that feedback to people who you know need the feedback, right? If you're able to do this maturely, give the feedback to the people that you know you need to give the feedback to, right? If you want to be brave about it, do it, right? Do it wisely, do it maturely, do it sensitively. When I say sensitive, I don't mean that it's just soft. Sensitive means that you care about the person and therefore you're going to address it in a way that's going to help them to improve, okay? Not in a way that just shuts them down and gets them into denial. You actually want to say it in a way that they actually improve, okay? Again, it's not about you, okay? And get the healing and the self-care that you need, because to go on this journey is a difficult journey, but this journey, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we became really mature and strong people, right? And if you need help, say so, be honest. Okay, Prabhu, to be honest, I find that I'm often a coward when these situations occur. I'd like to be more confident and strong. How do we do it? Okay, let's be honest. There's nothing more powerful than when you can be honest about your shortcomings with a view towards growing. Okay, but unless we're honest, if I just want to pretend I'm okay, we don't grow. Make some sense? Okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, are we supposed to call other people out on hypocrisy? If so, how do we do it in a way to express it properly and for them not to take it personally? Oftentimes when we try to call others out, they think their opinion is right regardless and they're not open to change. Okay, this goes back to what I said, proactively building relationship. Try to make your relationships with people so strong that instead of you coming to them to give them feedback, they're coming towards you, asking you what they could improve on. Okay? There's a sequence. It's subtle, but you'll see that in the lives of great devotees. There's a sequence. I'll give you an example. In the prayers of the six Goswamis, Sat Goswami Astakam, it says that they were loved and they were appreciated by the ruffians and also by the saintly class. Okay, what does that mean? It means that they were so considerate and caring in how they built relationships that actually everyone loved them. Everyone knew that this person is on my side, and therefore, if they had to say, "Dude, I've got some feedback for you," right? They'd already established that relationship. And this is my gripe with our community. We don't do this. We don't do this, but we should do this, right? This is what you would do if this is what we would do if we really had the mood of family. I would proactively show each and every one of you that I love you, I care about you, and I'm on your side, right? And therefore, if there is an issue, you and I already have something in our relationship bank account. It's not that I've said nothing to you, I've done nothing for you, I've shown no care, no consideration, but if I then give you some feedback, I'm surprised and shocked that you don't take my feedback to heart, when actually, you know what? If you as a stranger came up to me and gave me some feedback that was harsh, I wouldn't listen to you either. Okay, we have work to do. Proactively build the relationship. Now, the other thing is, sometimes you need to address an issue You can also address it indirectly in the group. Sometimes you need to address an issue, but you don't have the relationship with that person, but you can pass on the feedback to someone who has a relationship with them. Okay? So it's like, I don't think they can hear it from me, but this person, this is what happened, and make it real. Don't be like, don't just make it, I don't like the way they did that, right? But make it like, this is what happened. It's a context. This is what I saw, action, and this is what I think is how it came across to other people, result. Okay? That's actually interesting. That's Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Right? That's Sambandha. So this is where we were in this situation. He or she said this and did this. And I really think that as a result, it made people feel this way. Okay? So let's start being real people. Let's start doing what we can to make the relationship work properly. And this is not a one-off thing. This is a real dialogue that we need to have. Okay? Let me just put my I'll put my email address in the chat window. Let me just go to everyone, because I'd love to. At gmail.com. So just making it very real. I feel that part of my responsibility is to try and also help to bring about healing and to help people to understand that, we really love you guys. I mean, I'm just so grateful to be part of this spiritual family. And I know that we do have prejudice in our community. I know in our community, people do, and sometimes it's even without meaning to kind of, cause pain and so on, right? It may even be sometimes people are callous or people have misunderstood things, right? These things happen. And we need to have that mature conversation about them. We need to look at how we deal with that effectively and maturely. And it doesn't go away overnight either. Okay? But we want to do it from a sense of being real, being family, and doing this healing together. As much as this is a painful time, this is a time where we can bring about tremendous healing and connect with each other and love, support, and empower each other on a level that we practically have never been able to do before. Okay? There is no such thing as a dark cloud without a silver lining, because that dark cloud is Krishna. Okay? It's now up to us how we use this as an opportunity. And so in summary, 1, please do your own inner work. Please chant your rounds. If you want to help society, start with a revolution at home. Start with a revolution inside. Chant your rounds properly. If you're not chanting, do your rounds. Read, discuss, hear. Okay, that's number 1. Second, try to reach out to people, to be real. Introspect what you can do. What role have I played in the situation? What can I do to improve? And don't just think about yourself. Ask people who know you. Okay, what do you think I can improve? And listen. Okay, and as these spaces become available, let's also create that space for conversation and for healing. And when people tell you the truth, don't shut them down. When people tell you the truth, open up a space for a real conversation, because that's crucial. We want to bring the truth out, to deal with it, and not hide the truth anymore. Okay? But that will only come if we respond to the open and honest truth in a mature and sincere but real and honest way. So we're going to take it in the right direction, but we're going to say, you know what? I hear what you're saying, right? And I understand why you've acted this way, but this isn't good, right? And let me explain to you why it's not good and how this behavior makes these people feel and what it does to them. Okay? It's a journey that we're all on, and if we move forward on that journey together, I reckon then we can really bring about some powerful healing in a way that we've never done before. Okay? Okay. And I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to give me 1 second, because there's one thing I need to do, is just let one other person know that I will be slightly late, because I'm going to carry on with you guys as long as you've got time, and then we'll actually finish. It's now 7:05 in the UK. How much additional time do you think we will need? Yash?
I was actually just based off on your time, just like about 50 questions that came in. So I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them. So if you want to just give me a number for how many you would like, and then I can send you those accordingly.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm going to take another 10 minutes on the call. I've put my email address in. I'm ready to have any dialogue with anyone on by email or even by WhatsApp going forward. And then if people want, we could even do another session where it's just Q&A. We're just going through all the rest of the questions live and just kind of take the dialogue from there. Because I feel sad that the way that modern society is shaped, people don't really have time for each other because everyone's so busy, right? And I think that that's part of the reason why we've got into this mess in the first place, because we don't really talk and really air the issue and continue the conversation and let the dialogue go on as it may. So like, oh, we've got 2 hours and I've got something else on. But if it's a real family, I'm around you and you're around me, and that proximity, that brings about healing. Does that make some sense? Yeah. So I'm tired of doing things in the mode of passion and ignorance. I'm tired of like sound bites and then we go away and it hasn't been really, we haven't churned it properly. I think what may be better is if we do a follow-up where we can come on and it's just Q&A and we're just dialoguing and we're saying what we really think and feel, and we're making it a more meaningful exchange in that way. But that's my view. That's what I think would work. But I'm throwing that out to you to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. We can do, like you were saying, like the 10 more minutes if you want to take a couple questions, and then we'll definitely schedule like a part 2 where we can go just a Q&A session that's like a follow-up to this one, and then we'll carry it in the same way.
So then what I can do is I can answer maybe 1 or 2 more questions with the next 10 minutes, and then what I'll do is then we can then if you save all the questions which people have pulled out, then the next session we can just go straight into all the questions and really try and go into them. And then maybe what I think you were suggesting, maybe we batch up some of the questions which are of a similar theme. That way we get maximum time together and we can really try and address as many things as possible. How does that feel to you guys?
Yeah, it sounds great, perfect.
Okay, good. So let me just take 1 or 2 questions in the time I've got now, and then we'll go from there. Okay, let's see. Yeah, how do we respond to those in our Vaishnava Sanghas that seem to dismiss the pain and suffering of the communities that need to be loved, valued, and acknowledged? Okay, you should understand that they don't understand. I'm just being very honest. You should understand that they don't understand, right? There's always people who lack a certain level of emotional sensitivity, but you shouldn't be one of them. Okay? So don't wait for other people to be the example. You do it. Okay? That's the point. Because I'll just say it. My spiritual master told me once, he said, someone may be senior in position, but not necessarily senior in consciousness. Okay? He said that to me. They may be senior in position, but not necessarily senior in consciousness. Now, there's 2 things, and I'm going to be very clear on this. That's not an excuse to disrespect seniors. Got it? If you do that, you become part of the problem. But it's also not the excuse to set the example when you need to set the example. Okay? Again, you can see the theme. Mode of ignorance, they're doing something wrong, so I just kind of cuss them, ignore them, shout at them. Right? Mode of passion, they're doing something wrong, so I use it as an excuse. Now they're useless completely, and they're not even a Vaishnava, and I don't have to listen to them. Mode of goodness, okay, they're good in some ways. I'm still glad that they're a devotee, but this part, mature, this part, I don't think is the right response. And instead of expecting them to do it, I'm going to model that response. I'm going to be the member of our community who does display the love, the compassion, the sensitivity, even if other members of my community are not, for whatever reason, displaying that in that particular way. Does that make some sense? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Maybe I'll take 1 or 2 others. Let's see. One topic of compassion fatigue. I agree with the idea of using a connection with Krishna for energy so that the compassion is sustainable. What are some suggestions for someone who's already feeling the compassion fatigue to regain a connection with Krishna while also remaining compassionate in this personal situation? This is really important. And that's a big topic. One of the reasons why it's a big topic is because the way that we charge is different for different people, right? For some people, they recharge really well in a good kirtan. For someone else, it's actually having time in nature. For someone else, it's reading. We're not all the same. We are different. We are individuals. Even when we come to spiritual life, even when we're non-devotees, we have a uniqueness about us. Okay, so what can be very inspiring for one person, for another person, they may feel that that thing's draining. So what you do is this: two things, two practical things. One, reflect back in your own life. When am I at my best in Krishna consciousness? What are the circumstances where I feel most charged and inspired? Okay, that can give you a clue. Second, the people who know you, ask them, right? So you know me, you've known me over the years. When have you seen me that I'm at my best? I'm most engaged, most inspired, most energized in spiritual life. When have you seen me most motivated? And then from there you try and work out, what are those ingredients? What are those circumstances? What are those activities? What's that type of association that brings out my greatest enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness? The other thing, and this is again the modes, right? So again, it's such a powerful model. The mode of passion is activity, right? Passionate people, they're active, driven, but if they keep going like that, they burn out. The mode of ignorance is passivity, right? No action, no movement. What's the mode of goodness? The mode of goodness is like a sine wave, right? So action and then recharge. When you're recharging, you're also reflecting on what you did before to learn from it, right? When I acted before, what was good? What could I improve? And you recharge while you're reflecting. And when you do that, then the next time you act, your activity is even more effective. Why? Because you've taken the lessons from your previous activity and you've built that into the next activity. So in order to be sustainable, what you're looking for again is sattva, right? So action and then recharge my batteries and reflect on what I did to really learn from it. What was good, what could be improved. Then with all that wisdom and lessons and recharge, I've got more energy. I act again, this time even better. Okay, so you shouldn't be having compassion fatigue if you're actually living in a more healthy and wise and balanced way in Krishna consciousness, right? So usually compassion fatigue means there's an imbalance. Either it's action, 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 or actually you can be drained because you're lethargic, okay? So it should be the cycle, okay? We're doing something, then we recharge. Then we're doing something, then we recharge. We're doing something, then we recharge. The symptom of the mode of goodness is that the results are deep, they're impactful over a long period, and they're sustainable. You see? I love you, I care about you, I don't want to see you guys burn out. You and I have work to do, but it's not boring work, it's an exciting job, and it starts inside. As much as I can work on myself, I can make a lasting difference in the world, right? And if I just blame everyone else, you know what? I'm sorry. Unless you're a Paramahamsa, if you think that it's everyone else who's at fault and that you are fine, don't email me. Don't write to me, because it means you don't even understand who you are. You don't even understand your position. We don't understand our position. We all have work to do. Okay, so I think we should maybe end there. I'm sorry, because I wanted to create more space for all of you to kind of communicate, but sometimes I get feel very strongly about some of these topics. But in our next session, and we'll arrange with Yash for a part 2, I would love to just really make it that Q&A. I won't speak, but we'll just take it in whichever direction that you want to go in. And what I'll ask you to do also for the next session, because I want to learn, I don't have all the answers. I'd love to hear from you, your ideas and your thoughts and your insights on how we move forward, right? Because I'm very conscious, if we do it together, we're bought in, right? You're all adults. I'm not here to talk down to you. I don't have all the answers. If we do this together, if we design our solutions together, right, we will come up with things which work, which we're prepared to do, which are more likely to happen, which we have inspiration and enthusiasm for, and therefore we're more likely to make a difference. Make some sense? Okay.